Sean and Andy just emphasized about problems and solutions. I'm going to share with you some of the recent research projects that I've done that I think answer some problems that you guys in the room have. Perhaps others don't have that problem, but we try to do research projects that bring you solutions to problems that are relevant to you and your farm. That's courtesy of Andy. The reason of that clapping is he says, I can't get an applause any other way other than getting it artificially that way. Okay? So, you guys prove him wrong here. I need your help. So, we do field research, a lot of it at Hershey, but I also do field projects across all of Growmark FS. We had a project this year up in New York on precision farming, precision agriculture, for example. And it's typical that we do projects in multiple states, but the majority of what we do is at Hershey because there's a very good farm manager there, and he lets us do a lot of things. Good Growmark customer, and but we do a lot of it at Hershey. I think it's relevant for you folks in the room because it is also here in PA. We do a lot of training for our salespeople, people like Ken and Katie, Bruce, Pete in the room, and across all of Growmark FS to bring, like I said, solutions for problems that you guys have that I think are relevant, that help both your yield and profitability. Here's an interesting study that we did on grass hay. This is a mature mixed grass hay project we did for 3 years. What's the issue with old, mature, mixed grass hay? Weeds, what else? Low protein, yeah. Low yield?
Less digestibility.
Yeah, less digestibility. Watch this. This is I think, a good project that will give you some ideas. We were looking for growth regulators of pride foliar early season to help those mixed grass hay fields. 3-year study, first cutting only. We looked at cool season grass hay with a typical 3 species, Timothy, brome, and orchard grass. This is at Hershey. I'd say this stand is at least 20 years old or so. So very mature mixed grass hay. Spring application of growth regulator products. Early April, most of the time we were in there at about the 10, maybe 12-inch growth stage, still quite cool. And the growth regulator that we were looking at is gibberellic acid. Gibberellic acid helps release the cell wall so that those cells can expand, okay? And the thought is, if you can get those cells to expand, perhaps you can get more dry matter, more yield, okay? And the hormone we're talking about is gibberellic acid. Harvested first cutting hay, and we measured hay yields in dry weight. Average of the 3 years, here's our treatments, here's our yield. Here's check, where the only thing we applied was weed killer and nitrogen before we applied our treatments. Then here's Rise Up Smart Grass, made by Valent. That's a gibberellic acid material. Stimulate plus Excite is a combination Stoller product mix here of hormones. And amino acid, which is a bacterial mix of ground up bacteria in water. And here's sulfone, which is an NPK, really low nutrient content foliar, but just a little bit of NPK. What do we see? What's our best treatment? The Rise Up. Okay, the Rise Up. And the Rise Up is our gibberellic acid. This is the average of 3 years now. That's not much of a yield increase though, it only increased us in dollars about $3 per acre, moved us from 2.02 to 2.1. But the key, I think, is quality. Remember somebody mentioned here quality, digestibility over here. Here were our treatments this past year. Again, this is first cutting. Crude protein, ADF, NDF, lignin, and relative feed value. What do you see about rise up? Somebody up front that can read those numbers. It jumped it up. All 5, okay? Not just 1, 2, 3, but all 5 measures were improved, okay? And it was nice, okay, all the way across here. Bear in mind this is 1 year, first cutting only, but the numbers are there. Visible difference here, treated, untreated. What it did was it allowed a little bit earlier maturity at heading, and this is seed head formation. Mostly of the, I think that was the orchard grass. A little bit, it forced it a little bit sooner to head. And that's why we had this strong visible difference shortly after. Okay? Translated into a nice protein improvement. We look at today's value of hay and soybean meal supplement as a comparison to get that substitute for protein. That rise up protein was worth $29.50 on the protein value alone. Okay. So I think of the measures here, yield and forage quality, the biggie, I think in terms of workable numbers to try to make a decision is protein, $29.50 at today's grass and protein costs of soybean meal. So I think a nice example of a typical classic problem we've got with grass hay, especially if you're grazing or feeding that to animals. That quality improvement is nice and can be good, and we saw it. Another study, nitrogen stabilizers. What's the problem with nitrogen when you're trying to work it into your crop and using it to the best of your ability? What's the issue? What's that?
You can't get delivered anymore.
see Ken and Bruce. Okay? See Ken and Bruce for that. I can't fix you on the agronomy part of that.
I don't mean from the supplier, I'm talking about when the plant needs it, you can't get it.
Yes, exactly. It's hard to get it to the plant when you think the plant needs it or you know the plant needs it, right?
You could miss it a week on either side of your plant.
Yeah,
Too soon or too late.
yeah, too soon or too late.
Moisture.
Yeah, a nitrogen stabilizer can help with some of that, and the results here show it. What's our other issue with nitrogen? Leaching. What other loss do we have with nitrogen? Volatility, especially if you're putting it on the surface, side dressed, or pre-plant, and you're no-till, right? You can lose it from volatility. This is a nice study where we looked at a stabilizer, Agritane Advanced, that helps with that volatility part. We put 30 pounds of N pre-plant in a no-till situation, corn after corn. Then we side dressed at V6, that's just above knee-high, V6 stage of growth, 0 to 180 pounds of N. Each rate we tested both untreated urea and urea treated with Agritane Advanced. That's Agritane that has NBPT, the urease inhibitor that prevents or slows the volatilization loss in the conversion of urea over to ammonia. And ammonia on the soil surface, if it's not trapped, you're going to lose it because it volatilizes. So we also collected ear leaf samples at R3, that's after silking, to determine the nitrogen content in the plant. What do we find? Here's our yield. Here's our different treatments. The blue is untreated urea. The red is the Agritane Advanced. What do you see in the bars? What's the trend? The Agritane Advanced worked. At 30 pounds of N, it's higher. At 80, it was slightly lower. At 130 higher, 180 higher. So 3 out of 4 of our rates, the Agritane Advanced was superior. Our optimum rate in this field this year was about 100 pounds of N, somewhere between the 80 and 130. And on average, adding the Agritane increased our yield at a given N rate about 10 bushels per acre. Okay, adding that Agritane Advanced increased our yield about 10 bushels per acre. This is those same treatments here. Agritane or urea untreated here, and Agritane Advanced urea over here on the right. Here's our yield again. Here's our nitrogen content in the leaf. The blue line is the leaf nitrogen content. What do we see here about this trend, upward trend? When we added more nitrogen in both urea and the Agritane, we had more N in the plant, more N in the leaf, right? But there's a gap here in the 130 and 180 in the untreated urea. This one is pretty close over here in the Agritane Advanced, the blue line. Where we have that gap is where we have inefficient use of nitrogen. Not so much went into the plant and yield, and converted to yield. It went into the plant in the leaf, but didn't convert into yield. So this bigger gap, we had more inefficiency, less yield conversion. Here, we had less gap and a better or more efficient nitrogen going into the plant. Agritane increased our yield 10 bushels per acre over untreated, gave us an ROI at 130 pounds of N, which is about our optimum of 219%. So nitrogen stabilizer here really paid, and it paid and gave us an ROI on our investment of 219%. And better efficiency clearly here with the Agritane Advanced in comparison to the untreated urea. Now I'm going to show you 2 different slides. One is going to be about corn. Yeah, question. Yeah.
How much per acre does it cost you?
Agritane Advanced, I can't, that number, Bruce, Katie?
Yes.
Agritane Advanced per acre.
Yeah, probably around 45 plus a ton.
A ton,
Yeah.
right. Let's do the quick
Breaks it
math.
down.
Yeah,
45 a ton. How
45 a ton at
how much per
125 pounds of N, roughly.
Okay, then you're saying that 10 bushel will make up, it'd be like 3% of your 10 bushel you use for.
Yeah, it would use a small part of that gave you a nice return on investment for
What
the.
do you do, just mix it in with your fertilizer? or
Yep,
what?
yeah, you mix it in with your fertilizer, and it goes on all at the same time. Yep.
How much difference between pre-plant or top side dressing late in the season? One of the last times you can get over the corn.
You mean if you used it then?
Yeah.
You'll still get the value out of it. His question was, if you used it later on in an application, you'd still get the value out of it because you're going across broadcast. Yeah.
If you're at that price, if you're at 200 pounds per acre of urea, let's say,
Yeah.
it's $4.50 an acre.
Yeah, 200, and so that would be 86. So that you would be,
Pumping in,
yeah,
60% trade-off, because it's costing 40% of your 10 bushel. Do the math.
Yeah,
So it might not be an efficient way to add 10 bushel. It needs to be a little higher yield.
He's not thinking about it right.
well,
But you're handling more product, you're handling more.
no, you're not handling more product.
Then it takes a little over a
Yeah, you
bushel.
are, because now you've got a 180 pound per acre, you're saying.
It's a tenth, not 40%. He said 40.
You don't need
It's only
that
a
much
tenth.
fertilizer.
We need to talk. Okay? It takes about 1 pound of N per bushel of corn for you to create a bushel of corn. So regardless of where you get it from, supplemental fertilizer, manure, or your prior crop, anyhow, you need one.
I understand that.
Yeah, about one pound of N. Remember, this is corn on corn. And so we needed that about 125 pounds of N at side dress time to maximize yield. Yeah, in your situation, you may not need that 125 pounds, but we did here, and we proved it with the nitrogen rate part of the project. Okay, moving on. The next two slides are corn starter projects, where we looked at NPK, plant food, in this first slide, and then we looked at additives in our starter. And NPK can give us a nice yield benefit if we balance it right, and some additives are very beneficial with regard to bumping yield. And I'm going to share with you some of the results that we've got from recent projects of additives, not plant food, but are additives that have given us a yield improvement. So, 12-24-12 is kind of a standard, a 1-to-1 ratio kind of product, where we looked at different treatments here in our starter project. And we did this again at Hershey, and we did this in a medium P testing soil with 50 pounds of phosphorus equalized here in the first two treatments. Magnesium and potassium compete at the root. At Hershey, we know we have a fair amount of a need for supplemental potassium. So as an experiment, I wanted to see how important magnesium was in addition to the potassium. So we added a little bit of magnesium in a treatment, okay? We added a little bit of magnesium. And we went from the no starter check here to 07. Then using 12-24-12, we bumped it up to 222. We added just 10 pounds of magnesium, and we went from 222 to 240. Okay, so we had a very nice yield improvement here, 18 bushels with the small addition of just 10 pounds of magnesium. Brought home to me the importance of magnesium when you have a fairly high potassium need. We do at Hershey, and it did pay us really, really nice dividends. Then we also looked at this treatment over here, not quite as high a yield, but we've been looking at this for about the last 5 or 6 years. And that is where we're combining starters. We're combining and looking at 2x2 placement, kind of the standard, in combination with in-furrow. And in-furrow, we're adding that because some of our most progressive growers are doing both of those splits to see if that in-furrow can give us an advantage over just the 2x2 itself. So we looked at a 2x2 treatment, which is the farm manager across all his corn. He grows about 400 acres of corn of liquid 2x2, and then we added in furrow 9-18-3, 1 sulfur, 1 zinc, and lo and behold, we got a very nice yield improvement above our standard 2x2 treatment here of 234 instead of 222, and nicely above our 207 check. Okay? So just a take-home message that combining that 2x2 with a pop-up is sometimes giving us a yield advantage. We did see it this year at Hershey, and yes, it did pay. And on average, these starter treatments were above our check, and on average, they increased our yield 25 bushels per acre over the no starter check, and a return of about, or a little better than $40 per acre with an ROI of 84%. Additives. There's lots of questions about additives, especially in liquids these days. I continue to look at this, and there are 3 treatments here that I wanted to highlight. This is where we looked at 9-18-3 applied in furrow, 5 gallons per acre, right down the row, okay? And then we put 3 different materials in there as additives, and just to check out what kind of, if we do, and what kind of improvement we get. Here's a treatment here, added Bioforge and Extra Power, the 2 most common additives across Growmark that are used. This is an antioxidant material, and this is a hormone and zinc combination product here. They increased our yield over the no starter check, just barely. Typically our yield is more than that on this combination, but this year we only got about a bushel boost. Then we looked at the combination of that in furrow with Capture LFR. You heard Andy talk earlier about that insecticide Capture LFR. Capture LFR is an insecticide that helps protect us in furrow, and it did show us a nice benefit this year at Hershey of about 7 bushels from 216 to 223. And then we also looked at Xanthion, a BASF material that's an insecticide plus biological. Insecticide plus a biological. And last year we saw a nice improvement with Xanthion. This year we saw an even better of about 16, 17 bushels here in our yield advantage, okay? So very, very nice yield improvement with our insecticide or insecticide biological combination here.